Episode 66 of the Auld Triangle is here. Ian O'Neill, Andy Stevenson, Caoilte, the Barra, talking you through all the latest news in Irish mixed martial arts. And boy, oh boy, there's a lot to discuss. No fight for Conor McGregor against Michael Chandler. Bellator London has taken place. Interviews with Brian Manning ahead of his professional debut at EFC this coming weekend. Conor McCarthy comes on to give us a Cage Warriors update as well. Lots to discuss on other things taking place in the Irish mixed martial arts too, lads. Looking forward. We're going to get straight into it here because we do have a bunch to discuss. Let's talk about Conor McGregor first. Before we do, actually, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share with a friend. I'm getting good at it. That's too hot.
Do it now. Do it now. Pause it. Do it now.
Yes.
Do it now.
Comment on YouTube. That helps us. We had some great numbers on the YouTube in their last on our last podcast and on other platforms.
Tell Ian that he looks attractive. Be like, Ian, you look.
Oh my God,
handsome.
I don't. No,
that Ian O'Neill looks handsome. Just write that in the comments.
We're all dashing men. So yeah, I have to say it. But that being said, dashing from his fight with Conor McGregor is Michael Chandler. He goes on and fights Charles Oliveira, Andy. But that leaves us the news is that Conor is without opponent. This saga has been going on for quite some time. The news was kind of made official this past weekend from UFC 306. And I guess, what were your initial reactions to that news? Non-surprising to me, to be honest, the way things are going. A little bit surprising to Conor McGregor himself.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's I don't know, with all this, it's always just confusing because not surprised that that Chandler's moved on, but like I don't know, like the reaction from the McGregor side is kind of confusing because it's like, on one hand he's always saying, we've got the date, I'm training every day, but then you see videos coming out all the time of him like drinking and stuff, so it's like, well, I can understand why Chandler is probably just like, right, I need to move on. And also then you do, like, there's just so many complexities to this because we don't know all the details. And like, there is the whole aspect of the UFC not really, like, they need Conor, but they also don't really need Conor McGregor anymore as an entity. Like, he will always be the biggest star, but like, they just kind of roll on. And so I don't know, like they will do what is best for the UFC, and it doesn't necessarily have to suit Conor McGregor anymore. And then you factor in the whole, getting towards the end of his contract piece, which just makes everything more complex. And we know that they're going to be as petty and
there's a lot of politics going on, really.
There's a lot going on. Like, there's a lot. He needs to just be told. I think on the Conor side, just tell him, like, right, you're fighting next week. But like, that obviously is completely unrealistic from a promotional perspective or a UFC perspective. So it is what it is.
Hopefully we'll see some news soon. But like, I mean, yeah, I think, Conor, with him coming out saying we have a date, he wants December, that's probably a tactic on his behalf, trying to put a little bit of pressure on the UFC to make something happen. But, you got to feel a little bit for Michael Chandler. He's used the potential matchup for some kind of marketing gain, I guess, but ultimately getting in there fighting Conor, who is the ultimate kind of...
See at the top.
Yeah, see at the top. Well, he'll be going in for a rematch with Charles Oliveira, which begs the question, Caoilte, if Chandler goes in there, he's already lost to Charles Oliveira. I don't give him too much of a chance in the rematch too. Does Conor McGregor come in there? I guess Chandler had been coming off a loss any which way. You think a loss devalues that fight with Michael Chandler? Conor seemed to think, he's happy to take this if no matter what the result is in November, maybe January, February next year. Or should we be going a different route altogether for Conor McGregor? Should we be looking at a different opponent for him next, Caoilte?
Yeah, I don't think it devalues the fight whatsoever. Like, there's so much, like, history, like, I guess history in terms of the fight. No, they've not fought yet or at all, but there's history in terms of the back and forth. They've put so much time, the UFC put so much time and energy into maybe making this fight happen, and both of them have had their back and forths for God knows how long now, that I don't think it would devalue it. It just seems like one of those that might inevitably happen, but may not. And it's quite annoying because I think regardless of any situation, it would be a very good fight. In terms of going down another route, the first thing that sprung to mind, and like, I can't see it happening. I just think if the UFC were trying to get their bang for their buck to one upcoming star against probably the biggest star in the sport of I don't think, just hear me out on this one, I wouldn't be against Paddy Pimblett going in there with Conor McGregor. Genuinely, like the shit talk, the back and forth. I think
there's a time I would have snuffed that. Yeah, there was a time I would have snuffed that fight, but it is a little bit more realistic now. But I think when you're really thinking about it, when in terms of opponents, like, you know, I seen graphics yesterday and I seen everything, and it's all lightweight. But the fact of the matter is, Conor was supposed to be fighting Chandler at welterweight and has made no indication that he wants to cut the weight to get the 155 either.
There's no way he will.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to at this stage of his career. So I think even reaching out for a lightweight fight is, I don't know. Although I do like that Paddy Pimblett fight, it might be a fight that would make Conor cut to that extra weight. But I think we're more so looking like a welterweight fight with him next. You know, you could be looking at Nate Diaz coming back in, Jorge Masvidal coming back in, maybe a Tony Ferguson style fight as well. You know, I think, you know, those are all kind of fights I think we should be talking about with Conor McGregor. The Michael Chandler fight to me was always going to be a tough ask given the current kind of structure, the way his career is going. He's been out of the octagon for so long. It's a tough fight to come back to. A winnable fight, but a tough fight. But I think even a step down, get him back in there. Just get him back in against, you know, a Diaz, Ferguson, someone along those lines.
The Diaz was a great shout. Because like there's so many, like,
it sells as well.
How many more Conor fights are we getting? Like, whatever about what he wants and what he says he's going to do, like the logistics of getting him into the cage and the contractual stuff, like how often are we going to see him again, and that he'll be healthy and all this stuff. So like, make the Diaz trilogy, and like, you're after having this mega event at the weekend at Sphere, you've got this relationship now with Saudi Arabia, and as much as it's like blatant sports washing, it's a way to make fights happen. So get Turkey Al Sheikh or whatever to just offer a boatload of money, make the Diaz trilogy, and put on an event. I'm sure they could do some mad shit out in Saudi Arabia, production wise, like they did with this fight at the Sphere. So like, you're kind of looking at a one-off big event. Just do something like that with McGregor out in Saudi against Diaz or something like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. He doesn't fit into the normal mold anymore.
No, that's for sure, and it'll be interesting. We could probably do a full kind of podcast on the whole kind of landscape of this fight as well. But we've got to move on. We did have Irish in action in Bellator London this past weekend. Dara Kelly, Kieran Clark picking up wins. Liam McCourt defeated in her fight against Sarah Collins. Let's talk about Dara Kelly first, lads. Coming in here against Dmitry Herczeg. Very tough fight for Dara on paper here, Caoilte, and one of the toughest of his career, undefeated versus undefeated, and was in a competitive fight but deserved that win as well. Won by unanimous decision, 30-26 on all three judges' scorecards. A 10-8 round, about as convincing of a unanimous decision win as one might get, Caoilte, and very, very promising in the projection of Dara Kelly's career.
Yeah, I thought he looked brilliant. He was composed. He picked his shots really well, and he didn't seem to rush anything at all. We got to see a lot of his striking, maybe a bit more than we have in previous fights, where he would, you know, he's been very good at taking people down and dominating on the mat, but we did get to see a lot of his striking. And he didn't have it easy at times as well. Like Dmitry Herczeg, it was like he had some good striking. He worked off the jab well. He maybe caught Dara with a few shots. And yeah, I feel like Dara really kind of paced that fight really well as well. He didn't rush. He was, you know, never seemed tired while your man was absolutely bollocks, and he was always hunting the finish as well, which was always good to see. Even in the third, fight was probably won. He was still going for it, trying to get the finish. And just a word on those uppercuts, by the way, I absolutely loved that. Underutilized weapon at the best of times, but I thought he utilized them perfectly in that fight, you know.
Yeah, it's good that, we get a tough fight in there for him, getting a valuable 15 minutes, and he took a little bit of damage, which, you have to expect when you're fighting a level of opponent like Dmitry as well. But, showing the confidence with his striking, going for the finish, very hard leg kicks to kind of finish off the kind of fight in the third round as well. Ticking off a lot of boxes there, Dara Kelly, and a valuable, like I said, valuable 15 minutes for him against a really good level competition. And you kind of mentioned as well, and he was talking after the fight, he's not in any rush here to get things going, and the PFL tournament are kind of like back burner thoughts for him right now. And I kind of like that. I like that mentality from him, but at the same time, you're picking up wins like this, it is going to open up doors for you too, Andy.
Yeah, 100%. I think he was more so referring to the worldwide tournaments where He referenced Paul Hughes going straight in, which makes sense where Paul is at in his career. Now, Derek Kelly looked phenomenal, I thought, and I agree with everything that you've said there. The pressure that he had, I thought even I know, as we've said before, you don't go swimming and not get wet. Like he got a bit bloodied up. He took a little bit of damage, but he never looked like he was losing the fight at all. The poor fella's groin is probably has an ice pack on it for about a week after the amount of low blows he took. But I to go in here, and I think he was an underdog coming into this fight as well. He's taken out an undefeated opponent in Ritsenko, and it really is this was a step up in competition. We always talk about like the matchmaking, the lack of progression. Well, we finally got something here for Derek Kelly, and he passed it with flying colours. So now it's a case of, well, what's next? So I would love to see him going into the likes of a PFL Europe tournament. Now contractually, I don't know how that works, and or money wise, if like you may be looking at a pay cut there or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either, but it shouldn't, like you would think from us looking from the outside in without knowing how these contracts are structured and everything like that, it shouldn't be a problem for, Bellator/PFL to make that happen now. But he was fairly, outspoken on the fact that he has 2 fights left, I believe, on his current Bellator contract, Andy.
Yeah. I think that was the second of a 4-fight deal, is my understanding from what he was chatting with Paul Brown and the rest of the lads at in the post-fight scrum. So yeah, it'll be very interesting. But like he's shown that he's ready for that step up in competition and he's passed it. So he looked brilliant out there, and I'm very excited to see what's next. I threw out a couple of Irish names that I would love to see him in against, but there's loads of matchups out there that would be very entertaining for Derek Kelly. So again, like part of this is more the whole Bellator PFL lack of integration so far since the merger or buyout rather. So structurally it's a bit kind of confusing right now as to what's next. But let's see Derek against another. We've seen him against a 9-0 guy. Give him a quantifiable name now, or else maybe stick him into a tournament where he has something to go towards, because he could be fighting for European titles.
100%. Speaking of quantifiable names, that's who Kieran Clark should be fighting next as well after his win against Thomas Gronville, who came in at short notice. Clark picked up the unanimous decision as well. A vintage Kieran Clark performance in terms of dealing with the last minute replacement, going in there, getting a grinding win. Taking a little bit of damage himself, which is, it's very hard to prepare for an opponent on such short notice as well, to kind of, go out there and expect a clean performance is a bit unrealistic. But I mean, like, we could go back and listen to other podcasts and probably clip up and talk about Kieran the same way as we have been, and we will be in this podcast as well. He just doesn't get any luck when it comes to opponents. He deserves to be going in there and fighting names now. He did in his last fight too. In my opinion, he deserved to be in this fight. It's not happening, Caoilte, and he's the type of guy that just accepts fights, and he's happy to do so, and fair play to him. But he wants that Danny Sabatello fight. I think he deserves a fight like Danny Sabatello, and this was a great win for him again, given the circumstances. And all we can do is hope that he gets that opportunity in his upcoming fights.
Took the words right out of my mouth with that Danny Sabatello shout. I love that, and you're dead right. He deserves a fight like that now. It seems like, I guess, it's a known opponent, reliable. I don't think there'll be any slip-ups or any hiccups along the way, barring injury, of course, where it just seems like one that wouldn't fall out, because he's had a lot of fights now. I think only one in his last 4 or 5 have actually been at the said opponent, said weight class. So bantamweight was the last one. The rest have either been 145, 140. This one was 140. And yeah, we've been crying out for it for so long now. And I think that the time for a step up is now really like, and I'd love that fight. In terms of the one yesterday against Thomas Gronville, your man, Gronville put up a he put on a game run for his money nearly at times. Maybe wasn't the most exciting fight in the world, but short notice, different style of opponent for Kieran, and Gronville taking it on such a short notice as well. Like, it was a very good win. I thought it was a good outing for Kieran, and hopefully we can see him back in there again soon against hopefully someone like Danny Sabatello, like you mentioned.
For sure. Andy, your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I'd love to see the Sabatello fight. That win against Granville, like, it's not going to be a win that's going to give him, like, a lot of people won't maybe give him a lot of credit for it, in that it wasn't the most exciting of fights. He did have to deal with a good bit of pressure and a lot of defensive grappling against Granville, and like, it wasn't his best performance, I would say, Kieran Clark's. But it's at the same time, it was a guy who was coming in at short notice, who, albeit doesn't have the most amazing record, he's fought a lot of tough guys. Granville has. He's got a lot of really solid experience, and as Kieran said himself, he kind of, he's gone in against these guys and not been able to get over that hump by beating kind of the likes of the Wilson Hayeses of the world. But look, he got the job done, and he's 10-0, and he's like, he has not lost in years, and it's 10-0 as a pro and under the Bellator banner. So one thing that really kind of just annoyed me in that, not about Kieran Clark, was that he was saying, like, oh, I can't be calling for anything, and I'm like, well, that's bullshit. Because I mean that in a respectful way to Kieran, because, like, you're 10-0 in Bellator, and he's a humble fella, and he's not going to call, like, he's never going to call for things for himself, because that's not his style. But he's earned that right. He's 10-0 in Bellator, and he deserves a fight like a Danny Sabatello, where, albeit that is a big jump, but, like, that's a fight that, you'll get,
tells you where you are. You'll tell
exactly.
like look at, we know, right? This is the way I look at it with Kieran Clark, right? We know where Kieran Clark is at in his career, and we know that he can come in here at short notice and beat a level of opponent like he did last weekend, right? But what Kieran deserves for his career is that step up, to see what work he has been doing in the gym is paying off, and if he can go in there against a high level guy and actually compete, right? Because, he said it to us, and he always said it to us, and we spoke to him the last time. Like, he is so humble that he doesn't want to call his shots, and that might be to his detriment, but we will do it for him. I told him, like, we'll continue to talk this way, because this is exactly as he deserves. And when you take fights at short notice, you cannot showcase your true level of ability in there. It's get in there, get the job done. And that's exactly what he did there last Saturday. And it's fucking frustrating for him that Bellator seemed to be just leading him down this path. And without doubt, he deserves a fight like Danny Sabatello, or along those lines as well. There's been over and back on Twitter with the both of them. Danny Sabatello's come on and horribly spelled Ireland. Like, I mean, just Google it, Danny. Come on, man.
He's a good crack, though, like, because Kieran's not going to be the personality. If they, if there's two people on stage, Kieran's going to be the humble fella. So you need a mad bastard to come in and shake up the
exactly. And maybe that might draw a little bit of a reaction from Kieran, and he can kind of build a little bit of hype. But the over and backs, and Kieran was by no ways disrespectful to Danny Sabatello. Kieran wants a fight like Danny Sabatello for the exact reason why I started this point, is that, you go and you do the work in the gym. You want to showcase your work when you go out there and fight and compete in live action. And you're kind of handcuffed and you're crutched a little bit when you're preparing for weeks and weeks and weeks for a particular fighter, and then he pulls out at the last minute. We speak to Conor McCarthy about it a little bit later on, is that, the preparation that he likes to do, and you're basically last minute preparation, and you're going in with the scenario that I just need to get the job done, get the win. And it was a great win given the circumstances for Kieran Clark. But Bellator, PFL, whoever the fuck is running the shit over there, get him a named opponent next, please. I'll be blue in the face until he gets that opportunity. He deserves it. 10-0 right now. Get Kieran Clark some high-level competition. Get him a fighter. Look, at injuries happen all the time, but this is happening far too much. We need to get him in there with a guy that he can properly prepare for, that doesn't pull out, and so we can see and he can show us what level he's at in his career right now. And I think, there's not too much more to say about that as well before we move on to Leah McCourt. Who got finished against Sarah Collins. Tough fight for Leah on paper. Walked onto a couple of right hands, Andy. She got dropped and ended up getting finished in the first round via rear naked choke. Tough night, tough times for Leah as well, and at the minute, and a tough night in the office for her on Saturday night. Sarah Collins, early in her career, still undefeated, showcase what level of fighter she is. And, Leah looked all right, but was not able to recover from the shots that dropped her, Andy, which led to her being finished.
Yeah, I mean, it was one-way traffic, really, for Sarah Collins. Sarah Collins has emerged as the dream killer for Irish MMA at the moment. Obviously, she
single-handedly killing off all the Irish MMA women's competition.
She already has a win over Sinead Kavanagh, but yeah, like she looked great here. Obviously, she tagged Leah early, dropped her. Kind of like obviously she did drop her. It was kind of seemed like she was almost like kicking or slipping a little bit as well. Leah seemed okay after the first one. She was throwing the up kick. She managed to get to her feet, but that second shot, that second right hand, that was the beginning of the end. Like Leah was done at that point. Basically, followed her to the ground, took the back, and then shortly after got the choke and forced Leah to tap. So yeah, like it was dominant from Sarah Collins, and yeah, rough one for Leah.
Yeah, definitely. Look, at this was a number one contendership fight. Caoilte, basically, the winner here, they're kind of suggesting may go in there and take on the winner of Cyborg and Pacheco, which, with all due respect to Leah, I feel would have been a tough one for Leah as well, even if she had got past Sarah Collins here. But Sarah Collins was the perfect litmus test to see if she was ready for that. Obviously, it didn't work out, so it's back to the drawing board for Leah now again, Caoilte.
It is, yeah. I think although Sarah Collins may have kind of, she's dampening Irish hopes of a title fight, or of an Irish fighter in a title fight in Bellator, PFL, whatever it is nowadays. But what it might set up is that fight that we've wanted again is the rematch between Leah McCourt and Sinead Kavanagh. And I would hope off the back of that fight that one is made either hopefully Dublin. I think it would be brilliant. I just think it's the right time.
That's some supreme Andy Stevenson style matchmaking there, Caoilte. You're after taking the shine from the man up there. You see the big smile on his face when you brought.
I feel like a proud parent right now. I was like, all right, after Caoilte talks here, I'm gonna bring up the rematch, and Caoilte says it. I'm like, this is like unbelievable. Like, what is life right now? This is the Auld Triangle experience of just loving some Irish and Irish violence, and I'm so proud of you, Caoilte.
Dare I say, lads, on the topic of rematches and all of that, dare I say that the PFL have an opportunity here to put a lot of the talent that they have now, maybe take Pacheco and Cyborg out of the mix there. We have a bit of talent here that we could produce a women's featherweight tournament within PFL next year, where we could have a bunch of good fights. Obviously, you could put I think Sarah Collins has worked her way into that title fight, obviously, but maybe you could stick Pacheco back in there again, see get her a couple of fresh matchups. But if you want to kind of put together the Bellator roster, join it up with what maybe PFL have, maybe add a couple of other fighters into that kind of tournament, you got a good opportunity there. You have put Leah and Sinead in the same bracket and a couple of others as well. You might get the chance to see them fight more than once down the line. And, it's kind of, you mentioned it with the whole situation with Dara, and it's all kind of up in the air right now and what kind of PFL are going to be doing and what the plans are moving forward. And, we haven't really seen too much action really between what's going to be happening, or they haven't been kind of really forthcoming with any
line as well when it comes to the top of that division, where it's like, Jesus, can you not just get a fight booked? Like, I'm not blaming the PFL for that necessarily. That could be.
Well, we should be blaming the PFL because it's their job to get fights booked, to be honest. And
Cyborg's. We're looking at her Twitter feed, like it changes every 2 seconds what she wants as well, and we never know whether it's her or not.
Her or boyfriend or whoever he is, anyway. That's definitely. But that's the thought that I have. I think there's the crux of a good tournament. We can get this division kind of kicked off again, which kind of felt like the women's featherweight division in Bellator once upon a time was legit, but steeped with talent, and they've kind of let it fall by the wayside a little bit, and it's a bit of a shame. So hopefully something like that can kickstart. But I think that the crux of Leah's defeat is, I think we're all in agreement, Andy, it does kind of set up a big fight now between Sinead and Leah, and I think I'd be excited to see that. I know Caoilte, and I know you definitely would be excited to see that as well. You were watering at the mouth there when Caoilte was bringing it up, but I think that's the next one.
Like, joking aside or hamming it up aside, like, now is the time to do that.
For sure.
They're both in need of a win. 2, they fought before, and 3, there's really bad blood here. And like, there has been bad blood for a while. We had Sinead on, and she is not a fan of Leah McCourt. And obviously, there's a lot of stuff that you see at the moment, which we're not going to go into, and it would not be appropriate for us to go into. But that is playing into, which we've seen with some of Sinead's tweets over the weekend as well.
Yeah,
that, like, there's additional bad blood now as well. So now is the time to make that fight. It's a fun fight. It's a rematch, and make it happen. I don't think they're going to be on Irish soil anytime soon by the looks of their schedule, but put it on any card. It's still.
I don't think they're going to be in Ireland or the UK. Like, I mean, Kieran brought over a great crowd, and Dara brought over a few, Leah brought over a few as well. But you take those out of the mix, there wasn't too much there live at that event. So I don't know if it's not looking good in terms of Irish and UK cards. I think, they're burning the candle at both ends there in terms of shows and stuff, and it seems that candle is burned out a little bit. Hopefully not, but I'd be surprised. Maybe I don't think we'll see anything towards the end of this year, but maybe one show in Ireland next year, maybe two if we're lucky. But yeah, it's interesting times in the world of mixed martial arts down in the Republic at the very least, where there's very little action happening, but there is action happening in Elite FC in Cork. That's going down September 21st, and Brian Manning has taken the time to join us to talk about his professional debut on that card. He takes on Jordan Heath in the main event. Very excited to see his professional debut. A character. You will hear him in this interview. Very good interview. And I'm going to send it over to Caoilte to hear what Brian had to say.
Away from terrorising the streets of Cork in a Joker costume or Michael Myers mask, Brian Manning joins us today ahead of his pro debut next weekend at Elite FC. Brian, thanks for coming on. How are you getting on?
Oh, I'm very good, very good. And thanks for having me on. Do you know, like, you're a big platform. SevereMMA, the Old Triangle. This is it's a big step for me to come onto this, because I want to be kind of local. You do, and usually you always do the dubs. You have a Cork man I know, so I must be doing something right.
It's been a while since we've had a Cork man on as well, so I think we had to make a bit of an exception with the show coming up next weekend down in Cork.
Brian, I'm surrounded by enough boggers as is with these two.
100%, man.
Brian, you're making your pro debut at Elite FC, and what obviously, it's a massive step up. You've only had 10 amateur fights. You've had them in quick succession. You go to run a form. What's been the decision to make this jump so soon?
I'll tell you why now, because like, I wanted a couple of more amateur fights, and I wanted to be the champ. Maybe I wanted to be quadruple champ. I wanted to do a bit more. And I wanted even the nationals and even representing Ireland and stuff. But do you know what now? Like, I was meant to fight Graham Sheehan, and there was a pull-up before that, and there was another pull-up, and it was a lack of people fucking stepping to the plate. Like, the better I got, the more pull-ups I was getting. So I said I might as well strike and hit the pro scene while the iron's hot, and the iron is fucking piping. I'm going walking up as the Joker. I'm walking up as Texas Shits and Mask, Michael Myers. What the fuck is next? There's no one else doing what I'm doing. Do you know what I mean? There's not even the fucking Dana White is doing this shit. You know what I mean? So the UFC I'm pulling things out like this, so I think the perfect time is to hit pro now. And even though I want to stay amateur for a little bit longer, I got 2 belts. I did it all. I hit rock bottom in the amateur scene and climbed right back to the top. Do you know, I wanted to do belts, walking out as fucking everything else. Jigsaw and the whole lot, Saw movie. And there's a lot more to come. That was basically the reason. Just pull outs and just getting it going out,
Yeah, and you've only been an amateur for 2 years now, and you're
About
making
2
this
years,
jump.
man,
Was there a background before? Did you come from a boxing background? Did you have any other background?
Street fighting background, yeah. No, right. What I came from is I done a bit of boxing. And I had a few fights along the way in my life, you know what I mean? And I done a lot of boxing. Not a lot, but I picked up boxing about 23 years of age. Do you know? I started MMA at 25 years of age. I'm now 29 years of age. So I took to it like a duck to water, and I just got very, very good. And I just stuck at it. And to be honest, I didn't even think, obviously I would have loved to be a professional athlete, professional fighter and stuff, but I thought it was a little bit on my reach at the start, and then I just kept it away. And then I was like, fucking hell, I can actually make something of this here. And who knows what I can do. I go 1-0 here now. I plan to have two more pro fights by the end of the year, get 3-0. And who knows next year, Cage Warriors, PFL, UFC, you know what I mean? Who knows?
Usually when we speak to people, they've had a background. You mentioned there you're 23, you started boxing. People have a background.
I didn't compete in boxing. Sorry, no. I didn't compete in boxing. No, I didn't. I didn't compete in boxing. I just started with boxing. And yeah, I just took to it well. But yeah, continue. What were you going to say?
What brought you into the gym in the first place? Like, your 23 is would be considered quite late, especially with you going pro at 29. What brought you into the gym in the first place to start, I guess, so late in those
It
terms?
was something that was always itching with me, but I always did like fighting. I enjoyed a fight, and like I always wanted to do it like in a professional way or commit to a gym or something. But I never got it going. I was more into the party life. I was going to Ibiza and Magaluf, and I was doing this and I was doing that. And then I was 23, 24, and I said, look, I'll have a right crack at this now. And funnily enough, I wanted to box first. I wanted to go pro boxing. And I was just getting on to boxing. The hands were getting good. I was having good spars with some local champions, some Irish champions, and I was holding my own with them. And then the boxing clubs closed down over COVID. Do you remember back there about 2020? And fucking all the clubs closed down. But you know John Mitchell, obviously, yeah, he's from my club, MMA Cork. And I went to school with John. I was in school, so I know John years. And MMA Cork was closed down also, but John was still doing one-to-ones, like PTs one-to-ones. And I said, you know, I'll have a crack at that and see what I get going with that. And that's how then eventually I was getting hooked on the takedowns and the bit of jiu-jitsu, and fucking I just fell in love with MMA and I never looked back. I know I'm hooked in it. I know I'm addicted to shit, and I absolutely love it. Even though there's a lot of pain involved, but I still love it.
So
it's
were
fair.
you just doing like PT one-to-ones with John? Like, is this like in a field, or like what's the scene?
Out in the field, Tinker's Field we call it, in a sunny day. No, we doing this gym, like it was down to where it was down in Blackpool and near you wouldn't know, down in Cork, and it was kind of private, just one-to-one owners in the gym, and he was kind of the key for it, and it just he got me going. So I'm always very thankful to John. He'd always help me. He helped me get to here, and I'm grateful. You know, so it was just one-to-ones in a private gym, private studio and stuff. And I remember like years ago, like I went up to their gym. I'd done about 4 or 5 sessions, and I didn't have the discipline or the mindset or nothing. I was about 20 years of age, done about 4 or 5 sessions. Maybe got a couple of cladders, or I couldn't get going in sparring, and I never came back. You know what I mean? Never committed. And then Aaron and Jack and Maguire and stuff probably thought, yeah, just another fella now that comes in and just does a few sessions and you never see him again. But then years later I came back, and as I said, at 25, and had a proper go at it. Just the novelty does wear off, and it wear off as well when I started at 25. But this time I had a different mindset, I had a different discipline, and I just stuck at it. And thank God I did. Because what memories I'm making here. What memories I'm making.
Brian, sorry, Caoilte, just kind of to talk about your entry again. Mm-hmm. Were you growing up, were you looking at any boxers or any fighters in particular that kind of gave you a bit of inspiration to want to do fighting, or was it just like you said, you know, you were like us all in our early 20s, let's be real, we were living the party lifestyle, and you wanted to kind of bring a little bit of discipline into your life. You know, would it be more so for yourself, or did you see somebody and say, look at it, someone influenced you?
It was definitely the Conor McGregor effect, 100%. I don't think I'd be doing this if it wasn't for Conor. You know, if it wasn't for McGregor, I don't think I'd be even doing this. So I remember watching him. I always used to watch him in gaffs when we're all in the session. We're all fucking 20, 21 and 22 and no plans of fighting, but like, you know, I love watching McGregor. And then I always wanted to try something and get going with it. And I did, and mainly that was a big part of me getting going with MMA was Conor McGregor. But I wanted to do it for my own self too. I needed some discipline in my life, because, do you know, kind of it saved me. You know, it did save me in a way, and I don't know what else I would have been doing if it wasn't for MMA, mixed martial arts, because it's a fierce discipline. I know it's a dangerous sport, and it comes with head trauma and this and that. But it's other than that, it's a very healthy lifestyle, and you're very at peace with like your mind is at peace. Like you're eating good food, you're training all the time, you're happy. So it's a great lifestyle. And mainly, as I said from the start there, Conor McGregor was a big part of me getting into MMA.
Would it be fair to say that this has changed the trajectory of how your life has gone, considering how it was when you were maybe 23 up to 25?
1,000,000%, completely, man. I went from down here to up here. You know, and it's just, and I daily urge everyone to do it, and like everyone, kids or whatever, to get into some sort of martial arts training, or boxing, or Thai boxing, judo, even just physical sport. So you get hit a bit, you know what I mean? Just to grow in confidence, and you'll have a better life, and you'll be more peace of mind.
You see, you seem like a character. We all see it throughout, you know, your videos online and everything. It feels like it feels like you've
love all that shit. Go on in there. It feels
like you've been able to. Typical Cork, man. Jesus Christ. Yeah, look, it feels like you've been able to allow your personality to come into the sport as well. And a lot of people may not allow that, or kind of express themselves a bit more. And I think that's what drew us to you originally as well, as these videos. Even when you had a negative amateur record, you were making yourself known through videos.
Yeah.
Is that what you're like on a day-to-day basis?
Where did all this come from? Like, man, my girlfriend will tell you, my buddies will tell you, the gym, fucking Armand guy will tell you, you know, he needs to put a leash on my energy in the gym instead of getting more energy out of me, you know. So it's the way I am, and it's just kind of, even the way I'm talking to you or whatever. This is the way I am, raw, you know. Even, and I like the way I look at things as well, with shit talk and stuff. It's not like a planned thing. It's just, I'm going to fight this man. You know, I'm going to fight him. We don't need to be fucking dick on dick. You know, I'm going to take my head off. So like, I'm going to say mean things to you. You're going to say mean things to me. You know, it's not going to be. And I think that does, even though that's just the way I like to have things. Definitely, people get more interested with that side of things too. So when people are like, "Oh, great fight, man! John, fucking, you're doing well," people aren't as interested. You know what I mean? But like, yeah, from that sort of things, like I brought in the Joker and stuff and all that. That just that sprouted with the Dara War fight. It was just, I don't know, something that clicked there in that fight. I felt me and him were very bad blood, and the amount of people are interested in that fight. Just speaking of the bad blood situation there, many people are interested in that fight, and I just felt like it was a very dark kind of fucking dark fight. So I said, I'll just try the Michael Myers mask. Or a fucking Amazon Michael Myers mask there, and boom. And then it just clicked from there, you know what I mean? So now I have something to build on, you know?
A lot of it is, you know, the marketing side of it's huge, and that's how you get eyes, how you get people speaking about you and create a character as well.
Yeah,
but why the Joker, Mike Myers? What's the theme is very horror and Halloween like, but
it is.
What is your
own? It's violence, man. It's violence. It's fucking violence, and especially going pro, and we elbowing things, fucking noses and knees to the fucking face, blood pouring out of you. It's a violent sport. It's a dark sport when you really think about it. So, like, it has to be some serial killer motherfuckers. You know what I mean? and who's next, boys? Jason X, Freddy Krueger. Fucking, you know, the list goes on. Scream. I could do Hannibal. I'm going to be doing I'm going to recreate. Remember that motherfucker, what's his name? Is it Lee Murray or something Murray?
Yeah.
He walks out with Hannibal. He gets carted out. He gets the mask taken off. I'm doing that shit, yeah?
Yes.
Brian, you mentioned there that, you know, you're up here now, that you have MMA in your life, and you were down here. Yeah. Obviously, you started at 25 years old. Like, that's a quarter. It could be a quarter of a lifetime. So you've already lived a lot before getting to that point.
I lived a lot. What was life down there? If you want to ask me about that, like, I was just in a bit of trouble as I was younger and stuff, and just a lot of trouble, whether it was outside or whether it was with the law or whatever. But it was kind of a shaky road. And then I think going through all those things kind of made me as tough as I am. You get me, going through these hardship experiences kind of made me have that drive and this kind of a killer instinct for MMA. So I've no regrets at all. And when I say rock bottom too, in terms of MMA, I mean, like, remember when I went 1-3 in amateurs, and I remember, to be fair, I remember it was Ian was commentating on the Mantis fight. And like, look at me, like, no disrespect to Mantis, he's a lovely fella, but I think I'm levels above a lot of these fellas. Cameron Clements, fuck him, do you know, and he fucking, he got the better of me in the nationals, but I think I've gone levels above these lads. And and the rock bottom thing, I went 1-3 to fucking 6-4, so I won 6 amateur fights. But I think I'm 7-3. There's one judge that fucked me over, but look, we'll move forward.
You see a lot of kids in MMA now, they're in it from an early age, right? They have it in their life from when they're 9, 10, 11, 12. What were you like as a kid? Like, what was life growing up for you? I know you said, like, at a certain point, maybe towards the teens or 20s, you were in a bit of a rough water, but what was like growing up for you?
Yeah, I had a good life growing up. I had a good working family, man. I come from a respectable family. I had a great life growing up. I played a lot of sports. So that's obviously a thing why I'm very athletic now as well, is because I play GA, play hard in football, rugby, soccer, everything. You know, I was a very active kid. And I got suspended a lot in school for fighting. Do you know what I mean? I used to give fella black eyes or fucking fighting. I remember I organised a school, a fucking corner of the yard fight club. Ireland is a fight club there when I was only young in school, and my dad wasn't very keen on me getting into the fighting. But I think when I think looking back on it, I think it was a perfect probably thing to do. To get me, if I was fighting in school, maybe if we started younger, Jesus Christ, who knows where I could be. But as I said, maybe I would have fell off. Then if I joined too young, as people do, then when they get to 19, 20, they start to get good, they fall off. Then they fall into the partying lifestyle and the woman and everything else, But I've done all that. So now I'm just tunnel vision for MMA,
Brian, would you have a message for a young fella that might be in your situation, that when you were coming up, or they feel that life is a little bit tough and stuff like that? Look, you've turned it around, you've used MMA to turn it around.
Yeah.
Just say if there's a young lad growing up there now, maybe in his late teens or early 20s, that might be struggling like yourself. Any message for them lads?
Yeah. My message is that good days or bad days, everything passes. Good days, bad days, everything passes. And the biggest thing is get to a gym. Do a bit of training. The body needs to sweat. Whether it's a sauna, whether it's running, whether it's boxing, whether it's GA, get to a gym, do a bit of training, and whatever you're feeling now, bad or good, it's going to pass. You feel good, it's going to pass. You feel bad, it's going to pass. But the main thing is to keep active, keep the body active. Get to a gym, get training, and I guarantee you will feel better. You could change your life around. Look what I done. Even people are laughing at me when I went 1-3. They're not laughing now.
Brian, I saw a video that MMA Cork put out, and it was basically it was in the lead up to the Sen and Caoilte fight, and they were interviewing yourself and they were interviewing Aaron, and Aaron was saying how there are some fighters who come into a gym or that he has to kind of drag them to train and get them motivated, whereas you are doing your 2 sessions a day, and he's like, Brian, I have to tell him to slow down. Brian could be sneaking in an extra session. Why is that? Is that related to what you're saying there about kind of having that discipline? Does that keep you on the straight and narrow almost? That kind of that training.
That does keep me in the straight and narrow. 100% trainer. I have to train all the time, every day. Do you ever see Tyson Fury and do you ever watch his interview? He's a great man, and you learn a lot from him, not just from fighting, but like from life. And the way he was, his days off, his rest days is a very bad day for him. I can relate to that a bit. I need to sweat. Even if I'm with the missus or something, I'm like, it's a Sunday, and I need to go to the east to the sauna. I need to sweat a little bit, because it clears the head. I think the body is built to sweat. And with the Armand McGregor thing, yeah, he's definitely right about that. He's trying to get me out of the gym and trying to stop me training. And it's a drive and it's a discipline that keeps me on the straight and narrow. But what I did with all that training is I hit walls and I get injured and I'd be broke up and I'd have to take more days off then and stuff. So I've kind of gotten a lot smarter since then. I won't do the snaky third sessions on the slide. I might come in and do a hard session, let's say early in the morning or midday, 12 o'clock, spare, do a few rounds. And then I come in the evening, I train again, but I'd only drill, maybe do a few lighter rounds and kind of mix between doing that kind of twice a day, because I was doing twice a day. I was trying to play catch up. I was trying to play catch up with Paul Buckley, with John Mitchell, with Armand, with MMA Cork or whoever, and I fucking did catch up, by the way. But I was playing catch up, and I was going to injure a lot. I was hitting the ground running twice a day every day. Whereas now I'm a bit more calmer. I train every day, twice a day still. But a lot smarter. I train where it's like what I can get most out of the next day and the next day and the whole week, instead of going hard for 2 or 3 days, being fucked for a day or two, getting injured and stuff. You know what I mean? So just being a little more smarter nowadays.
All this hard work seems like it's paying off now. You're on a good run. You're about to make your pro debut and kind of nearly fulfill that dream that you had when you first began of becoming a professional athlete.
Yeah.
With this fight now coming up, the way it's matched, I like the matchup. It seems like
today's
yourself and Jordan having back and forth. So what do you make of it? And
what do I make of him?
How excited are you?
What do I make of the show? What do I make of him? Is it both? I suppose, yeah.
Both the fight and the show. What
I make of him, right, is he's a fucking bum of a thing, right? I was going to be nice there, but. He's getting fed to me, and he's all right. He's been around a long time. He's doing all the big man online. I'm gonna smash you, mate, Manning. You're dead, or whatever the fuck he's saying. But I'm gonna annihilate him. I'm gonna butcher him. And I told you I'm gonna make him bleed. And you're gonna see a new side to me in this fight. You're gonna see a new side to me. Pro gloves, nice tight, small fucking 4 ounce pro gloves. I'm gonna open the man up. I've elbows. I've new tricks in my back pocket. I've a few kicks there. I'm gonna introduce you to. and I have a different kind of pace. I'm a smarter fighter now, and not just go, and then be tired for the rest of the fight. I think I'm a different animal now, and I'm going to show up big time next Saturday. And the whole event is a brilliant show. If you can get down, it'd be even better. You know, if you get down to that show, because main event, and I'm not going to spoil the walkout now, but you can only imagine.
How much are you looking forward to A, using elbows, and B, walking out in front of a Cork crowd?
I'd love it all about the elbows, and I'm using the elbows. I don't just, some people go pro, they don't change anything. So they might throw an elbow, they don't simulate the knees to the head, they don't pace themselves, they still act like it's a 3-minute amateur fight. But I've brought them all into the table. I've been using a lot of elbows, I've been using a lot of spinning shit, and as I said, a different pacey fighter. So you'll see a different lamb, and a killer lamb. We'll be calling me the killer lamb after this, yeah? So fucking yeah, I'm looking forward to it, man. I'm looking very forward to it.
Can you explain where the lamb comes from?
The lamb came from a gaff party. The lamb came was a buddy of mine. I was just smashed to pieces, and someone was asking his name, and he was like, lamb chop. And then he was calling me lamb, and then I was calling him lamb. And then it's just like, if he rang me, I'd have him saved down on my phone as lamb chop, and he'd have me saved down as lamb. And it just stuck from there. And then like Brian Manning was Brian Lamming, and it was just, it was all, everything went. And then Bob Marley, it could be jamming, it was lambing. So it was a big thing. It just took off, and no one could have a lamb. But like, I don't really have a cemented fight name as yet. Nothing on my topology. There's nothing down. So, but I know I might mix it up because no one else is doing this. Like one fight, I was introduced as the Joker, right? Next fight, I'm introduced as fucking Jigsaw, Michael Myers. Next, I could be, Cork Chainsaw Massacre. The fight after that, I could be Jason X. You know what I mean? I'll maybe have a different nickname every fight. Maybe be unique. Everyone does the same thing. Everyone's like, I'm the Smash Machine, or walking out to fucking Roy Jones Jr. Can't be touched. Everyone does the same old shit. You know what I mean? Maybe I'll mix it up. Maybe I'll have a different name every fight.
With the nicknames, we can arrange for that to be updated in Tapology anyway. There's no problem there at all.
Get it, the contest, the mascot, and then the week after we change it.
Keep the Cork Chainsaw Massacre is good.
I like that one too. I like that one too. And we have developed a few nicknames here on the Ould Triangle podcast.
Yes, send them my way, boys. I could use them. Who knows? I take ideas off other people, and not just this motherfucker that says, it's all my plan. Like, I listen to everyone else as well. I got some ideas from other people, to be honest. But fucking send them my way, man. Send them my way.
With Jordan Heath, I don't know how we've come about this analogy, but with the two of you seem like very similar kind of personalities in a way. The videos, the promotion, very similar characters. I was watching Step Brothers recently. It actually reminded me of how the two of them, they had to have a fight. Yeah. They had to have a fight, and then afterwards they had to just become best friends moment. Yeah. And I just feel like the two of you characters.
You'll have to bury him outside the front garden after hitting
the Undertaker job, will you? But yeah, he's a mad bastard, isn't he? He's a fucking mad cunt, and he actually sometimes he makes me look normal. You know what I mean?
I'd say that's tough going, Brian.
Yeah, it's tough going, man. It's tough going. But look, at least I have a good dance partner. No, he's a good dance partner outside the cage, but he won't be a good dance partner inside the cage. I guarantee you that.
So, prediction for the fight. We've kept you for over 20 minutes now. So,
knock him the fuck out. I'm going to slap the titties off him. I'm going to TKO him via motorboat. He's done. Good night. Finished.
After this fight, what are the hopes and aspirations? You mentioned two other fights by the end of the year. Do you want to stay fighting regionally, go abroad? What's going on with that then?
Keep an eye out, boys. I actually didn't discuss this yet with my management, but I plan on fighting the regional scenes for the rest of the year. Premier could be one, and another course main event there now again in December 21st, EFC 3. And then next year, who knows? I can see myself fighting some big organisations, man, some very big organisations. Whether it goes cage riders, try to be a world champion there, among to the UFC, whether it's PFL, whether it's straight UFC or abroad somewhere. I don't know. I've yet to sit down and discuss that, but I certainly see a big future for myself.
Brian, I actually have a random one for you. This is basically to further my own agenda of Irish and Irish violence. But I think you are someone who has really kind of leaned into, creating an atmosphere on the amateur scene of a bit of like I would say friendly hostility, if that makes sense, where it's okay for Irish people to fight Irish people. When you're looking at your pro career, like, are you just thinking, okay, I want to get onto these promotions and this activity, or are there fighters in the country or in the UK that you specifically want to fight?
Is there fighters that I want to fight? Is it?
Yeah, like would you be looking, because like you were very very willing and amateur to.
Joe Fat Bastard, remember that award? Oh, Fat Bastard, yeah. That's definitely something I'd look at if I went to Cage Warriors. Get the rematch going there, even going out to welterweight. But other than that, there's no one that I'm looking to fight anyone, bro. I'm looking to fight anyone, and like as you said with the shit talking and stuff, it is kind of a lot of it's a bit of friendly banter. Do you know what I mean? It's nothing personal. No, like that award did get a bit of bad blood, but fuck him. But everyone else, it's a bit of a crack. Like even with Jordan Heath, it's a bit of buzz, you know. And calling him titties and this and that, and he's saying whatever back. It's nothing major, but I'd be looking to fight, anyone, bro. Anyone put in front of me, man.
Love it.
But no better rematch could be that award. Imagine that rematch. Fat bastard. The big fucking tournament.
I'd watch the rematch.
It'd be a good buzz, wouldn't it?
Be a great fight. The build up would be
good
too.
But like, you know, I'm not gonna say enough. There's better opportunities for me elsewhere. I'm gonna use what's good for me. I'm not gonna chase other people just because for less. If you get what I'm saying. Now, a good possibility, I do end up in Cage Warriors and try to get to the UFC from there. You know what I mean? That's a good possibility for me. But I could also go PFL. But I don't know, is the PFL then a bad gateway for the UFC? Because Dana White doesn't really, I don't know what the story is there. But as I said, I'll have to sit down and talk about it.
Love it. So no better way of finishing it up there, Brian. Thanks a million for taking the time.
Appreciate it,
we'll leave you
boys.
go back to going around Cork in the car in the masks.
Jordan Heath! He's done for, boys. Thank you very much, boys. I appreciate you having me on, all right?
Paul Hughes versus AJ McKee is now officially official. I know we were kind of joking off camera here, lads. I was sweating a little bit about this because, you know, I think it was on the last episode we were, you know, without it being officially confirmed, we were kind of talking about it as if it was happening, and I was like, shit, is this fight actually happening? But PFL did make the announcement. I want to give a shout out obviously to Paul or to Paul Brown, who got a great interview with Paul Hughes about this fight on the SevereMMA channel, and also did some great work at the Bellator London event as well. So shout out to Browner there. He interviewed Paul Hughes about this fight. Very exciting news, Andy. And, you know, I'm glad it's announced, because I was like, Jesus, are we tempting fate talking about it the way we have been talking about? But at least we have that confirmation. Very exciting news. Very exciting fight. And I cannot wait for this one.
Yeah, we talked about this one before. We talked at length about this one before, and you know, I think it was right to talk about it. I mean, it was reported by MMA Fighting, who have a pretty solid track record, and clearly the fight has come to fruition here. So, an amazing fight that just throws Paul Hughes right in the deep end, sink or swim territory. The same as I said over on Twitter. For so long, we were complaining and lamenting that, you know, young Irish prospects, with the exception of, you know, there was some SPG fighters who did go on and fight for titles, but, you know, the young ones who are kind of early 20s coming up, building their CV in Bellator and PFL, etc., they're not getting the progression they needed. And then we have Paul Hughes, who comes in here. Obviously, he's at his Cage Warriors run. He has his fight against Bobby King, and now he's just like, right, I'm going to go and poke my chest at the biggest kid in the playground here, and is taking on not a veteran, but this isn't taking on a guy who's like 35 and has, you know, fought for a title ages ago. He's fighting a former champion who's still in the prime of his career in AJ McKee, and who is continuing to get better by the looks of things as well. So what a fight. And yeah, this is brilliant.
Yeah, 100%. Look at Caoilte. We spoke about, you know, maybe some of our frustrations, and Andy just mentioned it there with Irish fighters who maybe not be getting the opportunities that they deserve and everything like that. Well, we've definitely gone from one extreme to the other here, with Paul coming in against AJ McKee, and, you know, talking about, you know, Kieran Clark and getting a level of fighter to see where his progression is at this stage of his career. This is exactly what we have here with Paul Hughes, and, you know, that's why I love this fight. It's because, you know, let's fucking see. Let's find out here. And how could you not be excited about Caoilte?
It's madness. Yeah, like he's gonna have to fight these type of guys one way or another anyway if he's going to the tournament. So might as well get used to it early and get him in there with AJ McKee. Like it's what I find cool about this is he's taken on like Mr. Bellator himself. Like AJ fought in Bellator from 1-0, like his debut all the way until whatever's happened now with the merger. So it is probably one of the toughest fights, if not the toughest fight you can have in that division. And it just shows how much faith or how much stock they put into Paul Hughes and how much or how highly they rate him, because yeah, you wouldn't give anyone this fight, especially two prospects that you're trying to build up. And yeah, you can't help but be excited. This could be an absolute banger. And I love the little face-off or the back and forth they had at the event as well. And I thought, I really liked that. Absolutely brilliant from them.
Yeah, absolutely. I have to give them credit as well for the marketing that they've been doing with Paul Hughes. Like, I mean, we can be critical in some terms of, you know, the buyout and the way things have been going, but, you know, they've invested in Paul Hughes, and, you know, there was many questions out there when Paul did finally make his decision, but I think, you know, that decision is already justified in terms of how they've marketed Paul, how they view Paul, and obviously with the opportunities that they're giving Paul now here as well. So we'll be talking about this fight time and time again until it's announced. Fantastic one on the big Francis Ngannou card in October. It's going to be very, very good to enjoy that as well. Andy, I see you're baiting there for a final comment on this. I don't know.
The wheels are turning.
I see. I've seen you now. I know when the wheels are turning. I know when I need to go up to you.
The synergy is off the chart. Well, no, what's going through my head is that like, a lot of people are saying, you know, are questioning online, and I say people like fans being like, oh, you know, this seems way too soon for Paul Hughes. And I saw Luke Thomas responding to someone about this, and, you know, someone saying, oh, this is far too early for Hughes. And he said it could be. And he's right. This could be too early for Hughes, but it also might not be. And I think that
for sure,
we look at this from an Irish perspective always, but like there are definitely fights and fighters where, you know, I will see, and they're Irish fighters maybe going into a contest, and I'm like, I don't know about this one. You know, you have that kind of bad feeling. You're like, watching this one through gritted teeth. I don't have that feeling, but that's also kind of irrelevant because or not irrelevant, but like I'm Irish. I'm an Irish media member, so maybe that I would be more prone to not having that feeling. But look at the media reaction to this fight across the world, and you're not seeing like this is too early for Paul Hughes. You're not seeing, oh, bad idea. It's excitement. It's wow, this is an amazing fight. So it shows the level of respect that Hughes is gaining across the world, and not just from the Irish fans or the Irish media. And I think that speaks to it. You know, it could be too early, but a lot of people don't necessarily think it is. So yeah, amazing fight. Sorry, I'm done now.
No, 100%. We got to get the excitement out there. It's all good. And look, I want to give a shout out to AJ McKee as well, who is, you know, stepping in here to give Paul Hughes that kind of chance to kind of show how elite he is as well. So credit to AJ McKee. Obviously, Hughes is chomping at the bit for an opportunity like this. So I'm very excited to see how that materializes. We'll be talking about much more. Caoilte, over to you. FCC. It was a good night for the Irish over there. Armand, Herczeg, Trevor Makengo picked up their first professional wins of their career. Obviously, Trevor making his professional debut. Armand moving to 1-2 in his professional career. Good showings from both guys there.
It was, yeah. I'll start off with Armand. Like he looks like a different fighter now that he's been training over at Manchester Top Team, and I would go out on him and say that he was probably brought into this fight with the expectancy to lose from the promotion. Like he was put up against who was their amateur featherweight champion and a guy in Matthias Urka that had made his pro debut with FCC. So they, you know, it seemed like they very much rated him, and they had Armand come in then to give him a bit of a test, is what it looked like from the outside coming in. But that certainly wasn't the case. Armand came in, he looked very, very good, much improved. He was sharp, his striking looks brilliant, very good in the feet. Thought his feints were brilliant, and to top it all off, the way he was seeing the shots when the openings kind of happened was exceptional, and that's what we saw with that lovely elbow. That was said, that's one of the best best knockdowns you're going to see. And even following up to the ground, we got to see a bit of his grappling and the defensive side. He managed to defend against the leg lock that Herczeg was trying to, or he looks, whatever it was that Herczeg was trying to engage with. And then what I did love about it is he caught the back of his head. It was, and he was nearly like dirty boxing him from the ground. And yeah, all around solid performance, brilliant from Armand, and that's his first official pro win. Obviously, at that one in the TV show as well, but that doesn't count towards the record. So yeah, brilliant performance from him. And yeah, Trevor then, wow, what a performance!
Brilliant, brilliant from Armand too.
It was, yeah. And with Trevor, I think the way I described it to him as well was the only way I can call it is composed. And I didn't even mean upon when I mentioned that, because he's obviously got this really successful YouTube with the Composed Productions, I think it is. But he was exceptional in there. I thought he marched down Hassan Hussein, who moved all the way up from welterweight and didn't look out of place at heavyweight either. And Trevor went in, he picked his shots really well. He seemed calm, collected in there. And yeah, I thought it was brilliant performance. He was, his hands looked sharp. He was going to the body quite a bit as well. And yeah, he landed much cleaner shots, did the more damage of the two. And then come the second round, he just had Hassan Hussein worn down completely, and that was all she wrote. The referee stepped in. Great pro debut.
He broke him
completely.
Yeah. Two fantastic performances at FCC. That, like I said, if you haven't seen it, you can tune in on UFC Fight Pass and watch both of those fights. Armand's step-in elbow, I know you mentioned it already. I want to bring it up again. It was absolutely beautiful. Like, I mean, I love seeing a shot like that. And he timed it and executed it to perfection, and that kind of set him up for the win. And Trevor, as cool and calm and composed as a professional debut as you're about to see, I'd say, from a guy like Trevor. And I mean, yeah, his future is bright as well. We had other wins, Andy, this past weekend from Nikolay Grozdev and Omar Tugarev as well. I mean, Nikolay Grozdev's fight was a wild fight, and Tugarev went in against an experienced opponent and got a good first round submission win as well. Break down those fights first and share your thoughts on them.
Yeah, I mean, this Nikolay Grozdev fight, if you're listening, if you're watching, if you have not seen this yet, go over to UFC Fight Pass. It's Wow FC, Spanish promotion, right? And he was fighting this Georgian.
Put the kids to bed before that, watching that one. I'd say it was a wild fight.
Yeah, sit down, pull your pants down. Fucking.
Whatever you do in your spare time, man.
Listen,
did that come
if you're a fight fan, go in and watch this one. His opponent, what's his opponent? I can't even remember his opponent's name. He was a Georgian fighter. Hang on, I have it here. Goriashvili. Just came out like a bat out of hell, swinging punches, like looping. Maybe not the most technical straight shots, but like just hooks for days. He's like a fisherman out there, and he cracked Grozdev once, dropped him, followed him down. Grozdev did a great job of fighting up on a single leg, getting on top, managed to get back to his feet, but then Goriashvili again, he caught him with a flush shot, tagged him, and you could tell kind of Grozdev was a little bit stunned again, and he manages to get the fight to the mat. He pretty quickly takes mount, and that was earlier, but he pretty quickly gets the sub, and like Jesus, he got a head and arm choke in the end, and my God, what a fight! It was like. There was just a lot going on, like for such a short time. I think it only lasted like 3 minutes or something, the entire fight. But yeah, he was dropped, got up again, got tagged, and then managed to take him down and sub him. It was wild. Fair play to Nikolay Grozdev, who's very quietly going about his pro career, I would say. He's been fighting all over the place, and he was on that Maltese show. Remember that the Centurion that all the SPG guys were on for a period. I think he did a one-night tournament there as well. I think he got to the final of that one, and yeah, now he's after getting another win here. So a hectic night at the office for Nikolay, but a solid first round submission win.
100%, yeah, 100%. Moving on, we had hoped to bring you some news.
Sorry, will they go do the Tugarev as well?
Do Tugarev, yeah.
So this is actually the previous weekend. So this is Omar Tugarev. So if anyone's unfamiliar, we probably haven't talked about him maybe ever on this show, but he is another Finnish fighter who has moved over to Dublin to Team KF. So similar to Omar and Shaban, who has had great success under Chris Fields and is now, obviously, he went on to win the UAE Warriors title and is fought in the Ultimate Fighter. Omar Tugarev is essentially, traveling the same path that Omar has had, and he's also now living in the gym, I'm told, in KF. So a very similar story. He was 2-0 coming in here, fighting a guy, Franco Aranda. He's an 8-1 record, so a patchy record, but 17 pro fights, a lot of experience. And he went in here, Aranda threw a low kick, which caught him, I think one of the first strikes of the fight, and immediately Tugarev took him down. And from there, it was just pure and utter domination, transitioning to the mount, to side control, everywhere on the ground, completely dominated it, and eventually got the Darce choke with about, I think, 8 or 9 seconds left in the round. The familiar choke of Tom King. I actually reached out to Chris Fields, and I was like, what is it with your lads and like Darce chokes? Because Darce and Anaconda chokes they seem to love. And he's like, oh yeah, I take all the credit for that and give it to Tom King. So Chris Fields tends to get a lot of credit for the MMA side of Team KF, but I think Tom King is the mastermind behind these signature submissions that the team seem to love. So a really solid win for Omar Tugarev, who looks quality, and he's definitely a fighter I'll start following now.
100%, yeah, very well said. So a lot of success there on the regional shows, I guess, for Irish-based fighters and Irish fighters as well. An Irish fighter that we were hoping to share some news this week was Conor McCarthy. So before we move forward and talk about some upcoming news and Iúr Fighting Championships, let's hear from Conor McCarthy and after his signing with Cage Warriors, his current situation, and we'll send it over to Andy for that right now.
And now we are joined again by one of the most promising young prospects coming up in the Irish professional scene today, the hot stepper, SBG Nace's Conor McCarthy. How are you, Conor, on this fine Sunday evening?
Great, lads. Yeah, thanks for having me on again.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We wanted to have you on because obviously it's been a pretty big news. Like you were chatting with Ian not too long ago in person around what was next for you. You'd gotten your last win, and there was talks of, could it be Cage Warriors? We've often speculated, could it be the yellow gloves? And you were teasing Ian a little bit. I would say you were like, yeah, this could definitely be it. And then it was like, oh, hang on, I need to go and talk to my coaches here. So you have indeed signed with Cage Warriors. So tell us about this. How did this come about? It's a multi-fight deal, I understand. How did we get to this point?
Yeah, so it's a 5-fight deal. It was basically like initially I just wanted to get my career started on the local scene, 1 or 2 fights, and then I just wanted to sign somewhere, with a bit of structure, guaranteed fights. Like it was, it was more so even what I went through in my last fight, 6 opponents or something like that, and it was a bit all over the place. So that was get signed somewhere, have a bit more structure, and Cage Warriors just really appealed to me. Like, great platform, they put on a great show. There's a proven history of fighters who fought in Cage Warriors going to the UFC, so it all made sense.
That's got to be incredibly frustrating, right? Because I feel like, we oftentimes hear of fighters having to deal with this, especially on the regional scene. And like, we just kind of hear, they've replacement opponents and it's, it's a bit kind of chaotic, but like, we're not in the mix. It doesn't actually affect us in any way. Like, what has that been like for you to have this kind of conveyor belt of opponents where you have your focus on one person, then all of a sudden it's a new person the next day? Has that been very frustrating for you?
Yeah, extremely. Yeah, because I like to consider myself a very technical fighter. I like to find details of fighting, and that completely changes from opponent to opponent. Like, for my last fight, I made the game plan on the kitchen table after weighing in. I was like, oh, he catches every kick, he moves to the left, or just all that stuff. So until I weighed in, I was like, I'm not even looking at this guy in case the fight's off. So it is, to answer your question, it's extremely frustrating. So hopefully now with this signing that it's, my days of that are gone.
Yeah, and look, we'll leave kind of what's next for a little bit in the interview, and we can talk about that. But I imagine, it probably is nice to have, Ian Dean is very good at his job, and for the most part, I don't think you'll have any issues with getting matched. Now we'll talk about what's next in a little bit, but in the interview with Ian, you did mention that you wanted to talk to Peter, your coach Peter Caoilte, before making the decision. What were the conversations with Peter and yourself like ahead of making the call to go with Cage Warriors?
He's the one that suggested it, to be honest. He thought it was probably the best option for me to get fights on the local scene or in the UK and Ireland. Again, we kind of said we kind of just weighed out all the options, and Cage Warriors did seem like the best option.
I think it's a great look. There's you're signing with Cage Warriors, but then there's also kind of a wider ramifications, and you're well aware, I'm sure, that although you're not an SBG Ireland fighter, you are an SBG NACE fighter, and there haven't been SBG fighters in Cage Warriors for the last little while. Thankfully, both John Kavanagh and Graham Bullen have both expressed kind of their will to change that. So I think this is a really positive thing. Like, does that even come into your kind of thing, your kind of thinking, where you're kind of almost like opening the doors for that now to become a thing again, where we might see more SBG Ireland or SBG affiliate gyms competing on the shows?
Maybe, but to be honest, I always thought, like, if I wanted to go to Cage Wars, I'm sure I could have. Like, I never thought there was any blockage for me. Like, I know Peter would have fought in Cage Wars himself, and he would have a relationship with Ian Dean. So yeah, like, to answer your question, so I always thought it was an option. I knew it could have been an option, and maybe it will bring on more people, maybe from the likes of my gym, SBG NACE and other SBGs. I'm not too sure, but yeah, like, I always kind of thought it was an option. Always in the back of my head, I was like, okay, I would like to lace up the yellow gloves.
There's always been the pathway through Cage Warriors for Irish fighters to the UFC, and you've long, kind of been telling us that is your long-term goal here. Times are changing a little bit in that there's many different shows on UFC Fight Pass now. There are definitely other options to go. It's not the only option to go through to get to the UFC. But was that a factor in your decision making as well? That there's a history here where it has been a proven path to that direction of where you're trying to go.
Yeah, definitely. And even like the production is top class. Like, if you see any highlights of the fights, that was a good selling point. Even like you can look at it as building up a CV of my fights, and like they're all like, if I get nice knockouts, like you said, on UFC Fight Pass, it's good broadcast, good reach. So yeah, I think to build myself as a fighter, like it seems like a really good option.
Was there, when you put, so how many fights is it? It's a multi-fight deal, right? Is it 4 fights? They usually are? Or?
5 fights, yeah.
5 fights. Okay. So when you put pen to paper, do you start going and looking at the other fighters that are on the Cage Warriors roster, or have you gone that far yet?
Yeah, I definitely had a nosy, yeah. Seeing who's like, around my level, say experience-wise and potential matchups. 100%. Like, it's hard not to. It's really exciting. You have these pool of fighters that I can be potentially competing against over the next 2 years.
Obviously, I saw that you had teased a date on your Instagram there not too long ago, the 20th of September. It is now, we'll be transparent, it is now the 15th of September, and we have not seen an opponent announced or anything for you. Where does that stand? Are we going to see Conor McCarthy in the yellow gloves quite soon, or what's the crack?
I'd say a very small probability that I'll be fighting next Friday, but what it probably will look like is November, one of the November cards, which I don't mind. The plan was 3 fights this year to kick off my pro career, and I'm definitely going to get those 3 fights this year. If an opportunity presents itself for next week, and I think I would take it, but yeah, realistically it'll be this November, so about 2 months out. And
you were like, I'm obviously we're having a chat before, and I don't think you'll mind me saying this. Like, you were trying to get on this card though, right? This coming up this weekend, that was the plan.
Yeah, the plan was always to fight in September. Like, a FCC fight that was supposed to be last week, that fell through, and then I thought I was going to hopefully be on one of the Cage Warriors cards in September, but it just didn't happen as of yet.
So what, like, I'm sure, like, we just had the conversation around, matchups falling through, and then you signed this project. I imagine it's probably a bit frustrating to not have that release, or that the date that you're expecting, right? You're probably itching to go, I'd say.
Yeah, it would be nice. To be honest, like, it was a quick turnover. I probably only fought like 7 weeks ago, So, and it's not the end of the world. You know, I even got a great camp in, so it would have been nice to kind of showcase my skills. But if it's another 2 months, so be it. I feel like I'm really adding stuff now to the gym. Like I spoke to Ian after my fights, my first time ever doing this full time, and I'm really enjoying the camps. Like it's less stress, so whatever. I think November when it comes around, I'll really get to put on a good show.
Conor, do you think you would have signed to Cage Warriors and where a lot of people are full time if you were still a student, or would you prefer to stay in the regional scene while you were a student?
Yeah, I wouldn't have signed anything while I was a student. You know, even maybe that's a sense of like kind of responsibility you have once you sign. I think it was the right decision just to get all my other responsibilities out of the way, and then just like kind of focus in.
Not seen you in the cap and gown yet. We've seen plenty of training pictures, but what's going on with the graduation?
DCU have their grads in October, so end of October. I'll be in the middle of camp, so there'll probably be no going out after. But yeah, I'll be missing a session just to throw the cap and gown on.
It's a great thing to have. Like it's a great thing to have the degree. Like, are you? Where does that sit now? Because obviously, I know we were talking to you when we had John before, and your parents are saying, "Now, you need to stop fucking accepting fights here while you're supposed to be studying." Are they wondering, you know, Conor, like, you know, can I apply for a job there, get a nice engineering job, or are they?
Well, I technically actually have one as well. I'm doing this full time, but I work part time in DCU. I got hired by one of my lecturers to do research. So I'm working research part-time, which is probably the best job a fighter could get, because in research, it's nearly like college that you have your research in the subject. You have kind of like a deadline by the end of the week to meet, and I can kind of do that more so in my own time. You know, there's not huge like time put on. So for example, like a day in my life could be like train in the morning, come back for a few hours, get like 4 hours work done, go back into the gym in the evening. And then if I need to, like, say it's a busy training day, I just work on the weekend if I have to. So it's a great schedule at the moment.
What are you researching now? What are you researching now, Conor?
Yeah, it's like I work in a machine learning lab, and I kind of do like, it's like coding and all. It's kind of hard to go into. I sound like a complete nerd.
Well, give us an in-depth breakdown of it there.
Yeah, no, I don't even understand it myself, to be honest. So,
so when you're saying, like, obviously, you know, you had your studying and you have to get your qualifications and stuff like that. When you say you're covering the fighting full time, you still have this research going on, which might be a good outlet to take your mind off fighting. But yeah, you know, you said that it was probably the most dedicated camp that you had the last time before going into Cage Legacy. You know, one thing that I noticed with you when I was there was at the event was how happy, how relaxed, you were smiling, you were going around shaking people's hands, like smile from ear to ear. You couldn't wait to get in there. Some fighters, you see a little bit of nervous energy. You know, some fighters, you know, you got to work pads early to get that nervous energy out of there, but you were embracing everything. It was like you couldn't wait for your time to come so that you could showcase your abilities. And that must have brought you a good air of confidence, Conor, because you were able to dedicate more time to your training and skill acquisition. Would I be correct in saying that?
Yeah, definitely. And even to go on that, like I try kind of replicate what I do on fight day is like what I do in the gym before a spar. You know, I try being myself, be relaxed. Obviously, every fighter, I'm sure, is very nervous, myself included. But yeah, I try just, you know, be mellow, be like, because I wouldn't be real tense. Say I'm going into spars fights, and I wouldn't be real tense going around the gym. I'd be relaxed, trying to make jokes and just keep myself nice and calm. Because even for myself, I want to be as calm in the cage, you know, trying to make the best decisions, adjustments constantly, and I do that when I'm the most relaxed. Like if you see red, you know, that's all your technique's gone out the window. So I try to be as calm and calculated as I can.
100%. All in all, when you look at the show, all the pullouts, you know, you were telling me off camera, you were fighting 3 or 4 different weights. You went out there, produced a great performance, got another finish. How were you feeling about the performance and how you handled all of that kind of, because I assume, look, you're always cool, calm and composed, but that's not easy when your opponents are changing, weights changing. You know, it must have messed with you a little bit, but I feel you handled it perfectly. You performed excellently. Were you happy with everything that went on and how you handled it on the lead up to your last fight?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I just kind of kept driven, which like I'd be disappointed if I fell apart. You know, I'd like to consider myself very driven, and just keep pushing forward. It was a shit show. I was very annoying about the opponents. Even like I had one opponent which I was quite excited to fight, Adi Nunes. Like, he had a good boxing pedigree and he had a few amateur fights, and he was 1-0 pro. I thought that was going to be the most exciting fight, but even to beat a black belt, like, that was kind of nice, even just in my head to be bet a black belt. But yeah, I was quite happy with myself. Like, the performance was a short enough fight. Couldn't critique myself too much about my performance. So yeah, I was quite happy with it. It was efficient, over and out.
Conor, you were mentioned there about like not being tense and being kind of loose when you're going into the same way you would be in spars. I noticed that you were sparring Dara Kelly there recently enough, who had a brilliant performance there just last night on Bellator. To spar guys like him, and even within your own gym, I see yourself and Max Lally doing a lot of work together. How important is that for you to be fighting against, not fighting against, but to be sparring these high level guys and kind of getting a sense of your level?
Oh, it's brilliant. I think that's I feel like I've been lucky enough to spar a good few people throughout my career so far, and I think that brings you on. Like, if you can find someone that you can both work each other really hard, I think that's how you get better, isn't it? There's none like sparring's probably probably like the realest you can do. So yeah, I think the more high level guys I spar, the better I get. I always kind of, if I make a mistake or they capitalize on something I can adjust, or maybe something I did well, I can even expand on that. So yeah, definitely, it's a huge part of my training, trying to spar good people. Yourself
and Max, of course, are kind of on a similar journey, a similar trajectory. Like, you're at quite very similar stages in your career. He's another guy we've had on, and he's talked to us about wanting that UFC from a very young age. He's very driven. It's UFC. Are you kind of having, like, when you're training together, sparring together, do you have conversations, after training where you're talking about like the growth of your career or your direction? Obviously, you're now in Cage Warriors. Like, can we expect Max to see, or can we expect to see Max following you in there?
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, I definitely wouldn't be surprised if Max goes to Cage Warriors, or again, like we talked earlier, there's other options. But yeah, definitely, and like you said, it's great to have someone we're all kind of on the same goal. We're all driven. Like, there's a good few lads as well. Like Alex Cow, he's fine tonight. I say, won't be surprised if he's pro maybe next 2 years and he's in Cage Wars. So yeah, it's nice kind of having that little bubble of people who are all kind of on the same path as myself.
Obviously, we're hoping to have some fight news to chat with you about, and I know it's probably a bit disappointing, but you're going to get a fight at some point soon, right? Like, Ian Dean is not going to leave you hanging for too long, whether it's November, whether it's sooner than that. I fully expect to see you in there before the end of the year. You talked about having a plan for this year where you wanted the 3 fights. You wanted to get, you had it set out. What have you got set out for maybe the first year or whatever it is that you're defining yourself for Cage Warriors? Like, I'm sure that yourself and Peter have already kind of been plotting out a little bit as to what you want here from this early, this early run with Cage Warriors.
So say we'll start in January. If I go, say I'm 3-0 in January, it'll be at least 3 fights that year. And, maybe if I've 3 fights and I come out injury free and there's another one presents itself in 4 or 5 weeks, maybe we could go for 4. But as a baseline, the goal is going to be, say, 3 fights a year for the foreseeable. And then any other opportunities that present itself, to stay ready. But to be honest, Andy, it's more skill progression. I want to just keep getting better, keep dialing in, keep improving, becoming a better athlete. I'm still, like, I know I'm not perfect, like where I want to be. So I'm just more focused on building up my hours on the mat, because I have a lot of work to do. Like, I feel like I have a lot of work to do to get where I want to get.
I think that's a very, very healthy way of looking at it. I think that's smart, like, because you do hear some lads who are kind of trying to rush in and be like, I want 2 fights and straight into the UFC. You've never struck me as someone who's in a rush as far as this goes. Like, you'll get there when you get there, but you want to be ready once you do get the call. Yeah,
definitely. Like, I think with the level of my training now, like the amount to say even every week, it's kind of like I count per sessions of what I'm doing. If I spend another 2 years at that, I really think my skill progression, I think I'll be a much better fighter than I am now. Even IQ, I think being like the best fighters are the smartest fighters as well, who make the best adjustments under pressure and like not panic, and just more experience as well. Maybe I'll spar like way more high level fighters, do a bit of traveling as well. So I'm just really kind of, that's where I want to be. See, it's not like fights wise, it's more so like where I'm going to be in 2 to 3 years, and I think maybe 3 to 4 years I'll definitely be UFC standard.
Where do you
I'm
want to
ready to
travel to?
compete in the UFC. My first trip is going to be Thailand for 2 months, probably at the end of this year, and then we'll see. Maybe I would like to go over to Gunny Nelson in Iceland. I know Pierre really wants me to go over there. He has a really good relationship, and I've trained with Gunny a couple of times, so definitely that'll be one. Just get as much exposure. Yeah, get as much exposure to different bodies and different fighters.
100%. But look, Conor, we really appreciate you joining us today. As we said, look, it's a shame we don't have fight news, but it's a very exciting time for you, and I think it's a very exciting for Irish MMA to have lads like yourself now under the stewardship of a matchmaker like Ian Dean. I think this is going to be a very beneficial relationship for both yourself and for Cage Warriors. So we're excited, looking forward to seeing you finally donning the yellow gloves whenever the call does come, whenever you finally have an opponent. But congratulations on the signing, on all the success to date, and I appreciate you coming on the show again today, and we'll chat you again soon.
Thanks again, lads. Pleasure as always.
All right, lads, a couple of tidbits that we have to go through here before we talk Iúr Fighting Championships. From the get-go, UK FC had wins for James Slavin, and obviously Damien McGuigan picked up another title this past weekend as well. Two guys on a great run. Obviously Damien McGuigan, who's been on with us here before, picks up another title to add to his collection as well. It's got to be pro coming around the corner soon for Damien McGuigan. He had said that to us the last time, Andy. You're looking at me as if you have a little bit.
Yeah, I'm hearing a few whispers, that I think he is going pro. That
would be good. That would be a good move for him, and I'd be very excited to see his progression there. Other quick news that I'll run through relatively quickly. Stephen Costello is traveling over to Eternal MMA in Australia to fight for another title, to add to the one that he picked up in Tenerife not so long ago. He will fight on Saturday, the 26th of October, on Eternal 89. Coming in against Alden Bates. Bates has both finished and been finished by Jack Della Maddalena, so interesting stat there coming in. Kieran Loughran is back. He was on with us last episode talking about wanting a busy end to the year. He takes on Stephen Dramas on the 27th of October, so right next day after Stephen at LFL 14 in Amsterdam. I seen that fight is at featherweight too, so Tiernan looking down the poster said featherweight.
You keep getting confused with this, I think, Ian. He's always been featherweight.
Always been featherweight now, yeah. What am I saying?
We had this in the interview with him as well.
I think he had one that was scheduled for lightweight though.
Yeah.
But did he?
Yeah, I think he said it to us once. Yeah, there's something. So I
know. I think Ian just wants him. No, Ian he's trying to manipulate him here. This is it. He doesn't like him at featherweight. He actually hates him. He hates him at featherweight. So
yeah,
he wants him.
Give that man a sandwich. Give him a sandwich. Let him move up to lightweight for fuck's sake.
He was like that lad's a fat bastard. In fact, just before we started recording, he was like, "That's Tiernan Loughran, fat cunt."
Stop. That was worse. These boys are.
That might get us pulled off YouTube. I don't know if I've dropped the C word here before.
Yeah. Well, we're definitely not good. We're definitely going to get the old yellow monetization badge after that one.
We had.
I was saying kind. Anyway. I was speaking Irish.
Yeah. James Sheehan is out of his Cage Warriors title fight. Very unfortunate there against Yanni Bakar. We had heard rumblings. We hadn't really discussed it here on the last episode of the podcast. Fight was supposed to happen this weekend. We got confirmation he is out due to an injury. So very, very unfortunate news for James Sheehan. We wish him a speedy recovery, and we expect to see him in there hopefully over the next couple of months. James Webb's title fight has been moved to November 15th in London. That fight was supposed to be coming up a little bit sooner. Orlando Prince is out of his fight with Solomon Simon. I was really excited for that one, guys, but unfortunately that one hasn't materialized. A bit of a negative kind of spin on the news there, but let's finish with a positive spin. The new promotion set up by Danny Core, Caged Gladiators Ireland, has its first show scheduled for Sunday, 17th of November in the Gridwood Sports Complex in Belfast. And I think I think we have seen, is it Emmett Core that's been
Emmett
announced
Core,
for that?
I think it's for the lightweight title, is it again?
That's right, yeah.
Forgetting this now, but I will pull it up while you're chatting away there.
Yeah, so it's a good Caoilte to have another promotion. We've been talking. Look, I kind of feel like we have to, because we kind of made a deal about the lack of kind of shows in the Republic, and obviously it's not a problem up in the north part of Ireland, especially in Belfast. We have another edition here as well, so the competition is heating up there in Belfast. But it's great to have these shows on. It's great to see Danny in the mix as well, and I'm sure that he'll be putting on some good shows as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's there's so many fighters now as well. That's the thing. Like, you can only get so many on one show. I think we heard one of the coaches, I don't want to misquote who said it, but I remember one of the coaches saying before about how they have so many fighters, you can't put them all on one card. It's just difficult. So it's great to have more where, talent can be spread out across different weekends, fighting on different cards. And it's brilliant. Fight on scheduled for what, 17th of November. I'm surprised. I thought November 2nd was available, to be honest with you. But I guess he thought not. Great to see another show on in November, but on a different weekend.
November 2nd is going to be like, I don't know, we're going to have to set up 7 TV screens and
just not watch any of it. Let's just not watch it.
We're going to have to designate shows to talk about, and then, because it's like trying to get all of those in at the one time is going to be a little bit impossible as well. But
Alex McCook is Emmett Core's opponent, by the way.
There you go. A good addition, and we can expect to see some more additions to that card as well. All right, let's talk some Iúr Fighting Championships next. You'll see we're down a guy. We were actually recording Sunday when Iúr Fighting Championships was on. We wanted to watch some of that event, come back and record. Caoilte had
R.I.P.
R.I.P. Yeah, we're going to have to send the ambulance over to him. He's the man down. He's got the man flu, the early man flu. I mean, Sean Sheen is sick as well. Maybe through the airwave, Sean Sheen has made him sick. But there's a sickness
going around.
It's going around, man. We'll have to mask up, as the lad says. But it was all action on Sunday in Newry at Iúr Fighting Championships. Main event. Jess Paulo made his professional debut. We were very excited about that, and lots of other fights on the card. Me and Andy are here to go through the bulk of the action on that card, and it was an action-filled card overall, Andy. Lots of great finishes on it, lots of great fights. I was talking to Paul, and he was saying, he had a great night up there as well. We watched back the fights and looked at a couple of the finishes as well. So let's get into it. Let's talk about the main event. Jess Paulo making his pro debut against Makengo. And he took home a second round submission. We had been saying about Jess for quite some time, Andy, that, we were looking forward to him from, moving pro to amateur, because it didn't really seem that the 3-minute rounds were suiting him at amateur level for his style. He likes to get the fight down. He likes to work and grind with his jiu-jitsu. That's exactly what he did in this fight as well. He had a little bit longer to work with, then brought home the second round submission. It was a lovely finish. Lovely standing guillotine finish, Andy, and I'm sure you were just as impressed as what I was in seeing that result. And it's off to a winning start for his pro debut for Jess.
Yeah, we've as you mentioned there, we've seen Jess Paulo. He's one of the more experienced amateurs over the last number of years, and at times it was almost like he was on every single fight card up and down the country. And typically, when we would see him in there, and he fought a who's who at amateur in Ireland, but we would see this kind of pressure heavy, getting the fight up against the cage, getting the takedown, and a lot of control. We saw a completely different Jess Paulo coming out the gate here at the start of round 1, where he was looking to strike. He was using his kicks well, using his length well. Makengo was landing a couple of nice shots as well of his own with his hands, but whereas Jess was kind of more so using his legs. And some new weapons here. It was his first fight as a pro. He was looking to see if he was looking to throw the elbows, which I think he sliced open Maga at one point there in the first round. But I think it was good to see a different side of Jess Paulo that we have seen over the last number of years in that he came out with more of a striking approach here. But ultimately, Zurabov kind of took him down, but Jess did a great job of getting back to his feet and latched on immediately as soon as he got back standing. In that second round, he latched onto the guillotine, turned him around then against the cage, and there was kind of a bit of confusion. Was it the guillotine? Was it a ninja choke? Was it a front choke?
It was hard to see the grip. When I was looking at it, it was hard to kind of see it, but the guys called it excellently there as well with the calling it the guillotine, because it looked like it was a little bit of a ninja choke as well. But it was an excellent finish, and with the extra 2 minutes, with the use of elbows on the mat as well, that's going to really complement Jess's style in the professional ranks. And I think he's going to be one to look out for now as he progresses in his professional career.
Yeah, and you'll all hear right now that my microphone sounds way better because it was coming through my webcam for the first 2 minutes there.
There you go. Look at that. I can see the smoothness now. Yeah,
that's it. Apologies, folks. But yeah, look, it's going to be interesting to see. I think he's very, very early on in his pro career. Let's see how his style develops.
Yeah.
But yeah, good to see him. A good win in his pro debut, and it's been a long time coming for Jess Paolo fighting out of SevereMMA. Good to see them getting a win. It's there's kind of a nice scene in the octagon after. It clearly meant a lot to them all, not just for Jess in the pro debut, but also for the team in general.
He's a big lad. Like, you've seen him in there. I think I was looking at Dave's video as well, and I haven't seen him fight before. I don't know what it was, but a little bit more up close and personal there. He's a big fella for a welterweight, I tell you. So yeah, he's going to be big trouble there for a lot of people, and I'm looking forward to seeing his career progression. Amateur bantamweight title, and he was on the co-main event, Jared Ryan versus Adrian Barrow. Talk us through that fight.
Jared Ryan, I am really, really enjoying watching this guy fight. I saw him fight against Dale Sheridan up at, I think it was Iúr 10. It might have been 2 events ago. The night that Shea Cleland and I always can't remember if it's Cleland or Cleland. When he fought Damien McGuigan the first time, and I was very impressed with Jared Ryan. And Jared Ryan is a guy who had a really kind of rough start to his amateur career. He was the nail, the old expression of the hammer and the nail. Well, Jared Ryan was the nail, and I tell you what, no longer. He is absolutely the hammer, and he's someone who I definitely have my eye on now. He has a very, very solid style for MMA. When you look at lads, like some lads have really good jiu-jitsu, but like from what I can see, it's Jared Ryan's pressure, his wrestling. He has an ability, and he's so strong. He has an ability to completely control where the action is taking place, to hold lads down. But not only that, he is absolutely clinical in landing bombs as soon as he gets to half guard, as soon as he gets to anywhere really where he's on top on the ground. So like, it's a perfect style for MMA. It is exactly 100%. What you need, and especially it's like watching a young Dagestani out there. Kind of, he's developing into. So brilliant stuff for Jared Ryan. Another really, really solid win. And to be fair to Barrow, like Barrow hurt him. Like he landed a beautiful knee up the middle, up to the body early on in the first. Really hurt Ryan. He definitely won that first round for me. But Ryan came back strong in the second and third, and especially that third round, landing a lot of damage. So a brilliant win for Jared Ryan, who looks to have really kicked on.
What about that mullet and Tash combo, Andy? I mean, I love a good mullet, I swear, and I am not joking there. Diego Lopez fighting on the UFC comes out with a fantastic mullet. I love a fucking good mullet, and when you have a good Tash to go behind it too, fucking A+ for me, and I'm sure it is the same for you.
There's only one word that could describe that mullet and Tash combo, and that is filthy. And I mean that in the best way possible. So yeah, shout out to him for that. And also, I have to say, I'm a huge Zach Bryan fan these days. So Barrow definitely got on my good side by walking out to an Zach Bryan song. So 2 thumbs up for. As soon as I heard the music for Barrow, I was like, this is great. And then I see Jared Ryan walking out with a disgustingly filthy mullet, and I mean that in a good way. And Tash combo. So 2 thumbs up. Andy approved. Ian approved. We love that.
Love it. I love it. Very, very good fight for the amateur flyweight title. Henry Lecca defeated Shea Cleland by split decision. Razor close fight, Andy. One that could have went either way. Drew a little bit of controversy, one might say. Talk us through the fight and your thoughts on it.
It wouldn't be a Shea Cleland fight without some sort of kind of controversy, and oftentimes the poor fella is on the wrong end of the decision. And yeah, look, this was a very, very close fight. It's obviously a rematch of the fight that they had back at the Nationals. Remember the one that we were at last March, I think it was. If I recall at the time, Lecca beat Cleland, but then was unable to progress on. So Cleland ended up fighting Nate Kelly in the final of that. But yeah, look, this round one, this was a fight where at the amateur level, judging is, I'm not sure if I fully quite understand it, because like the first round,
there seems to be like from my experience watching amateur, right? And I think we're going to get into it in this fight, because obviously in the professional ranks, damage scores, but there seems to be a little bit more of acknowledgement by the judges for control time, at least in the amateur ranks, which, you know, I can some way understand, but it's a grey area really amongst scoring in all the mixed martial arts, to be honest. And it's the same in this fight, Andy.
Yeah, and it is. And I think it's in specific instances. So for example, the first round, right, it was like, there wasn't really a lot that happened. There was a couple of exchanges and a couple of shots from either lad, but nothing, you know, no strikes that were of great significance at all, and nothing really to separate the two. And then the differing, I guess, factor here was that Lecca had gotten the takedown. It was a lot of control, a lot of pressure, but no damage really. But I would have given the first round to Henry Lecca, and that's an example where it's like, you kind of have to, like, when it's 3-minute rounds, when there's really not much damage from either fighter, you kind of do have to factor that in. So even though, like, in the criteria, it's like, you know, a takedown is only a change of position, unless it's an impact.
Yeah, well, you go to if there's no damage, you do go to that tier 2. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So I think Lecca took the first round. Now the second round is so the third round was undoubtedly a Cleland round. I thought that he did, you know, all of the damage, or like the vast majority of the damage, landed some really good shots, especially towards the end. That was 100% his, and it all came down to the second round. And really, again, Lecca was pressing forward. He was looking for the takedowns. They had a brief exchange on the feet where, you know, not a whole lot to pick between the two of them before Lecca shot early on, pressed Cleland against the cage, and Shea defended it well. There was just the difference here for most of this round was Cleland was landing little kind of pot shots, little, you know, punches to the body, punches from bottom. Lecca was landed a couple of shots here and there, but for the most part was you know, controlling the grappling. And had it just stayed at that, we'd get into that same kind of scenario of like, oh, you know, which way, you know, you probably do give it to Lecca considering the control and the grappling, even though in, you know, 5-minute rounds of pro that might not come up. But Shea Cleland did have a submission attempt here. In fact, I'm trying to remember this exactly, because my mind's got, he was looking for a guillotine, and was there another one? Oh, I can't remember now. Anyway, he had
a choke attempt as well.
Yes, and it looked, now it was only briefly, but it looked like it was on for a brief second. So I think
that's an attempt to finish the fight. That's the way a judge would be looking at that, in my opinion, anyway.
Yes, and I think that, in my opinion, that was enough to steal the round there at the end for Cleland. So I had a 29-28 to Cleland. Now, as I said, very, very close. I can understand why a judge would go another way. I just personally would have gone the second round for Cleland at 29-28. But look, a very, very close fight. I'd love to see them run it back again, to be honest with you, and have a trilogy. But yeah, look, I'm sure I saw, you know, a post from Shea Cleland earlier on where he's kind of maybe just a bit down, understandably. You know, you kind of get on the wrong side of these decisions, and it's probably very frustrating. But like flyweight, as I think the lads were saying on commentary, like Andrew McGann and Paul Brown were saying, it's just, there's so many good fighters in the country. And the fact that they're all fighting each other, it can only stand them. And like, I know it's very difficult for a fighter to take when it's they're the one in there, they're the one, you know, hoping to get these wins or whatever. But once you get to the professional ranks, the amateur record, it just does not matter. Look at Kieran Clark right now, 10-0 in Bellator. Go back and look at his amateur record. It's easy for me to say that from the sidelines. I understand that, but I would just hope that, you know, any fighter who's kind of, you know, maybe losing the split decision here and there on the amateur scene, don't worry about it. Like, honestly,
I wouldn't
just
worry about it.
yeah,
It's going to stand. Those type of fights, we've seen it time and time again, Andy. They're going to stand to you when you eventually do turn pro. And, you know.
And similarly for Lekka here, like, he had some great, grappling control here. He had some good takedowns, really, really good in the grappling area. He'll learn from this as well to be like, if he
a little bit more damage, and he'll
exactly.
And he got the win. He got the win.
What he needs to do is take a page out of Jared Ryan's book, and watch him. Like, that's what I need to implement now, and then his game will come on magnificently as well.
100%. Run through a couple of these fights really quickly. I'll get your thoughts in a second. I'll just share the results first, Andy. Glenn Eagers defeated Jed Paulo via unanimous decision, 29-28 and 30-27 on one of the judges' scorecards as well. Unfortunately, there was no double set of wins for the Paulo household. Alex Keogh picked up a lovely first-round submission via rear naked choke over Oisin Daly, and Kevin Keogh defeated Brendan Brannigan via third-round TKO. Your quick thoughts on all three of those fights, Andy?
Yeah, Eagers, I was impressed by the boxing. Really, really nice shots here. I think that was kind of like, Jed Paulo definitely had his moments in the fight and landed some nice shots himself. But especially in that third round, it was the boxing of Eagers that won this fight for him in the end. But, a solid show from Paulo also. But was quite impressed by Eagers' hands. And I'm conscious of time, so we won't go into too much detail on each of these. But Alex Keogh, I mean, this kid, he's only just done his leaving cert. He looks like a bit of a phenom here. Oisin Daly, like Oisin Daly, he put it up to him initially, but like it was just like so Oisin Daly came in the cage, and he was kind of it was a great scene. He was staring Keogh down. He was kind of giving it there was the crowd were starting to roar. He's giving the ears the kind of gesture. And Keogh was just staring him down. This kid's only probably 18. He's just on his leaving cert.
He's ice cold. Alex Keogh is, man. I saw him at Cage Legacy 23, and I got those vibes from him. 5-0 now. He gets another couple of wins there. For me, I think he's already up there, and he will be in the list of nominations for an Amateur of the Year. Whether he gets it or not, obviously, it depends on how the year closes out, but going in there and he's getting these finishes and he's making it look easy, Andy. This one, he secured the choke with only one hook in, so that just shows the squeeze that he had. He didn't even have the second hook in, and he got the tap. Serious prospect, Alex Keogh, and Peter and Sergey down there and the rest of the crew they're producing some level of talent down there, I tell you, at SBG Nace.
They really are. And I thought he showed great fight IQ here, because they started exchanging early on, and Daly's a solid fighter, and Daly landed a couple of stiff jabs right in the face of Alex Keogh, and immediately Keogh was like, you know what, fuck this, I'm going to take you down and choke you, and that's literally what he did. So he was absolutely clinical. Great fight IQ to make that decision to take it down, and then was clinical and get the sub. And another first round finish. I think I saw Peter Queally saying he's an average of 47 seconds fight time throughout his 5 fights so far.
It's insane.
Yeah, nuts. Sorry, the last one then. So Kevin Keogh, back and forth, a lot of kind of cage grappling in this one. There was a funny moment in this fight where, Chris Fields was doing what Chris Fields does when he corners and being very vocal, and he'll kind of try and maybe prey on the mindset of the opponent, say, he's tired, he's getting hurt, and Kevin Keogh just kind of turned around and just looked. He's like, the body shots are hurting him. Just turns around, just shakes his head at Chris Fields and carries on. But yeah, did a great job in was it third round? I think this was a finish here. Got a lovely takedown, used the leg triangle to kind of completely stifle any chance Brannigan had of getting back up. Got to the mount, landed some shots, got to the back, landed more shots, back to the mount, and he landed some very heavy shots to finish and a TKO there. So a really solid win for Kevin Keogh with our Team Rhino Waterford. He's a solid fighter.
Yeah, 100%. I'll run through a couple of more quick results here. Chloe Crozer defeated Ava Cruz via unanimous decision, 30-27 on all three judges' scorecards. Adam Hannon defeated Conlet McAlone by split decision. We had Ben Mann, who looked really good at Cage Legacy 23, if I do say so myself. He picked up a nice win over Ricky Derujo, 30-27. Demetrio Plentini of Phantom MMA had a 12-second head kick knockout. It was 8 seconds. I've seen 8 seconds. I've seen 12 seconds thrown around, but it was a quick head kick knockout.
Yeah,
very
great kick by Dimitri Pintelay. Phantom MMA. They probably don't get enough love on here from us. Great performance. Good stuff in the gym.
100%. I gotta stop. It was a great night for Milo martial arts. They went 3-0 on the night. Cale Brennan picked up a win, but we got to talk about the Hound, Matty O'Rourke, who went in there and defeated Bradley Rice via second round TKO. Fight of the night, up there for fight of the year. Look at that. I said it, and I watching Matty fight. That it's going to be a scrap when he's getting in there, and it was this played out exactly as we expected, Andy. An absolute barn burner.
It was a fucking banger of a fight, and the same as you were saying. I had Niall Sunderland on not too long ago ahead of a premiere, and he was like, Matty O'Rourke is, you got to watch this guy, and my God, like he didn't. It was not all Matty O'Rourke, because Bradley Rice came out, landed some beautiful shots. The two lads basically just came out and were like, we are going to throw caution to the wind and stand and bang, and that is what they did. Bradley Rice landed some brilliant shots early, landed a flush right hand that dropped Matty O'Rourke, but Matty, he got back up. The two boys went at it hell for leather, and Rice definitely, he won that first round with the knockdown, but Matty O'Rourke came out like a bat out of hell in the second round, and again, like the lads were just in the pocket immediately, and both of them landed, like both of them were taking heavy shots, coming back. It was back and forth, but ultimately Matty O'Rourke backed him up against the cage, and he landed a nice right hand that kind of just maybe above the ear, the side of the head, that clipped him, put him down, and that was all she wrote from there. A few hammer fists, to finish it off, and a brilliant win, a massive outpouring of emotion and kind of raw bastardness from Matty O'Rourke, I'd say.
It was great to see. Like, I mean, when you get involved in a fight like that, you get dropped, you come back, and then you go on and get the finish. Like, there must be no feeling like it. Like, this one for me.
Did you see the kind of celebration he did after?
Yeah, it did. Yeah, just an outcry, an outcry of emotion. The old cutthroat. It was brilliant. It was brilliant to see, and there's no question in the heart of either one of those lads. So fair play to them for going in there and laying it all on the line. And that was a savage fight. And Matty O'Rourke, man, he's turning into primetime viewing. I look at didn't have things go his way in the last premier card in Kilkenny, and that would have, I know I've been in that position. I fought in Kilkenny, I've lost, and it's fucking heartbreaking when you don't get the win in your home city with all the supporters there. So fair play to Matty for brushing himself off, going out there, putting on a performance to remember, and getting the win on top of that as well. So all in all, a very, very good night at Iúr Fighting Championships. Again, Decky knows how to put together a solid card. Fair play to him, fair play to everyone involved. Any final thoughts before we move on to some upcoming fights, Andy?
Yeah, no, I would just echo again, like Decky always puts on brilliant shows, and that's notwithstanding the fact that a number of fights fell off this card. Like, we didn't end up getting that fight between Jordan Scully and Roman David, which was, that would have been brilliant. We didn't get there was another pro fight, right? I'm forgetting his name now. The lad he used to always fight, Carl McConway. He was due to have a pro fight here too. That didn't happen as well. So, considering a few fights fell off, it was still absolutely brilliant. So fair play to the lads, always brilliantly matched.
And I'm sure that will be up on YouTube eventually for anyone who didn't get to watch live. The lads are fairly good at getting those fights up. I would recommend going back, and there's lots of great finishes even on the undercard, and the main card was savage as well. So yeah, fair play. Moving on, Andy, let's talk about a couple of upcoming fights. Friday, September 20th, Cage Warriors 177. I'm going to blast through all of these.
There's loads coming up. Yeah.
We'll have a quick chat about some of the standout ones on there. Friday, September 20th, Cage Warriors 177, Adam Shelley versus Maren Valtria. We have Adam Darby, who was recently announced for that card against Everton Borges. That fight was just announced earlier on this week. September 21st, the Octagon, SBG's Lucy Pudilova takes on Cecile Bolander at Octagon 61. Check out Sean Denny's preview for that card in full. Also on the same day, September 21st, which is a busy day for Irish mixed martial arts, Cage Warriors 178, Darragh Ward versus George McManus. Matthew Friel making his Cage Warriors debut against Jordan Molinari. Really looking forward to seeing Matthew Friel make his debut for Cage Warriors there. Same day, Elite FC, Brian Manning, who spoke with us earlier on, takes on Jordan Heath. Jack Maguire takes on João Silva. Abhinav Fares takes on Lorenzo Prezicchio. We have a lightweight title at amateur with Kyle O'Brien versus Sam Driver, and also an amateur.
I think this is a title fight as well between Daniel Kampfer and Evan Horgan.
What is it? SLW title? I see it as
super lightweight. Super
lightweight. Yeah, I was like, what the fuck? I've never seen that. It does make sense.
Put a lot of letters in there.
The brain wasn't firing there. That was on September 28th. Fast forward to the next weekend, we have the Scatizzi brother and sister Daniele Valentina taking on Jakub Kazuba. Daniele Valentina taking on Chanel Dyer. Two tough fights there for both of them. Mateus Zarovs takes on Brian Hislop at the PFL Europe card as well. Bunch of fights. We'll be talking about them in more detail, obviously, on the next podcast. Quick thoughts, any standout ones there for you, Andy?
Yeah, I mean, one of the ones you just mentioned there, that Valentina Scatizzi versus Chanel Dyer, like, Jesus, out of the frying pan and into the fire in consecutive seasons for Valentina. But this is what this tournament's all about. I mean, we saw her go in against Dakota Dicheva last season. Now she's in against the next up-and-coming prospect coming out of the UK in Chanel Dyer. So be very interested to see how she gets on there. Daniele, obviously, like, that'll be a cool thing for both of them on the card. The other little tidbit about that card that I found out today is that actually Andreas Binder is an alternate, or he's weighing in as a stand. Basically, if someone falls out, he's going to be an alternate in the tournament. So that'll be
that's very exciting for him. Yeah.
Yeah, but then additionally, we obviously had Brian Manning on. Like, I'm very interested to see how he gets on in the pro ranks. Jack Maguire is back. He came back there in Spain after a good few years out and got a nice finish over on that card. So good to see him back competing again. And yeah, I'm really excited to see Adam Darby this coming weekend though as well.
That'd be the standout one for me as well in terms of
the broken arm, right? Or was it something like that?
Yeah, it was a broken arm or broken hand or something pulled out. But great to see him added on. Like, I mean, at the real last minute here as well, just about 5 days out from when this card is going to take place. But Adam Darby is looking a serious prospect, and I'm excited to see him in there again. You remember as well when we were talking to Graham Boylan here, he singled out Adam Darby as well as the list of prospects and fighters for that we should be looking out for, and I will surely be tuning in. Cage Warriors 177 for him. That wraps us up just about for episode 66 of the Auld Triangle. A pleasure as always. Thanks to everybody for joining and listening in. Always a busy time in Irish mixed martial arts, Andy. We're always the same. We're always like, geez, I wonder what we'll talk about on the next podcast. And then when the next one rolls around, we always have a mountain of stuff to talk about. We try to get through it as quickly as possible. We do apologize. We have to brush over things fairly quickly. We don't want to be giving you 3 or 4 hour long podcasts. But seeing as Caoilte is not here, I'm going to have to send it over this time to the bowled Andy Stevenson to see us out for this episode.
Is bralum hu Caoilte agus tá an green ag scuilte na glucanna.